Anyone removed? Nurul Tasnim was removed. Nurul Tasnim, why are you removed from the class? Okay, please rejoin, yeah. Okay, we are going to topic agriculture allowance, yeah. So this is actually chapter 29 in your textbook. Okay, agriculture allowance, we have approved agriculture projects and forest allowance. So this all under one topic. So it's an allowance, it's still part of the capital allowance. But now you have capital allowance for plant and machinery, you have allowance for industrial building, and now we have agriculture allowance. And then later we look into forest allowance as well. So agriculture allowance is similar, whereby we give you allowance on the capex incurred in your agriculture business, right? So later we look at the definition, what do you mean by agriculture business? So the composition is similar, whereby given adjusted income, you can minus your capital allowance and agriculture allowance. Yeah, so agriculture allowance is given as additional allowance. So in your composition, you can have adjusted income minus capital allowance of plant machinery, you can have industrial building allowance, and now you have agriculture allowance, provided that you are in the agriculture business. Yeah, then only you can claim agriculture allowance. You have Public Ruling 1 2016 governing agriculture allowance. I want you to refer to this public ruling later, all right, and look at into the example given in the public ruling so that you can better understand this topic. Okay, as usual, we want to know what is a qualifying agriculture expenditure. Yeah, so qualifying agriculture expenditure is capex incurred by a person on number one, or A, is that the clearing and preparation of land for the purpose of agriculture. So previously we have preparation of land. All this is PCTL, is not depends. Yeah, that's the law 10 and 7%. But here for agriculture purpose, the clearing and preparation of land is always qualifying expenditure for the purpose of agriculture. Yeah. And then we say that the cost of planting, any capex incurred for the cost of planting, bracket, but not replanting. So later we look at what do you mean by planting, what do you mean by replanting. Of crops on land cleared for planting, construction on a farm of a road or bridge. So if you have a farm and then you incur cost to construct a road or to build a bridge, for example, so that is also a qualifying expenditure. Construction on a farm of a building used for the purpose of business of that person, right? Which consists wholly or partly of the working of the farm, or the construction on that farm, a building provided by that person for the welfare of persons. So for example, if you have canteen, you have the city hall, or it could be, farm normally refers to temple, yeah? Or as living accommodation for a person employed in or in connection with the working of that farm, which if the farm ceases to be worked, the building is likely to be of little or no value to any person except in connection with the working of another farm. So later we look into what do you mean by the building has little or no value, right? In order for it to be qualifying expenditure. So to summarize, all right, qualifying agriculture expenditure, you answer A, B, C, or D. Right, what's A? A is clearing and preparation of land, and then the cost of new planting, and then construction of road or bridge on a farm, construction on farm of a building for use in business or for living accommodation. So these are the only qualifying expenditure for the purpose of agriculture claims, yeah, allowance. Cost of plant and machine. If you have a machine, for example, cutting machine, you can have a generator. In the farm, you can have a tractor, all right, it's a heavy machine. So these are plant and machinery. So if you have that, you can still claim normal capital allowance as in other businesses. All right, it would not be part of qualifying agriculture expenditure. The land cost again is excluded from the meaning of qualifying agriculture expenditure. And then Public Ruling 1, as mentioned earlier, we provide the scope of qualifying agriculture. For example, A, clearing and preparation of land. The scope include terrace the land to combat erosion or provide easy access to estate worker. So these are the expenditure that you may have to incur in order to for the purpose of your agriculture business. New planting, New planting means that, for example, initially it was rubber tree, now you want to plant oil palm. So it's a new planting from rubber tree to oil palm. Or from a vegetable crops, all right, you want to plant timber, right? So it's a planting, new planting. Planting new crop of any product, replace old crop with a crop of a different product. So old crop may be the rubber tree. Now the new crop is the oil palm. All right, remember that nursery. What is a nursery here? Anyone?
Jual pokok.
Jual pokok. Right, normally you have a small plants, all the roses, orchids, all the in-house plant, all this is actually sold at the nursery. So nursery is not agriculture business. It could be, but it does not fall into the category here. So if it is a nursery, you cannot claim agriculture allowance. Yeah, it's not a farm and it's not a plantation. That's why you non-qualifying. You can claim capital allowance as a normal business, but not agricultural allowance. Construction of road or bridge, you have include construction of drains. And then you have building used in business. For example, you have office building, mills. What is it? Go downs. Have you heard of go downs? Malay cakap gudang. It's a warehouse. All right, go downs. And smoke houses. All right, all these are example of business use, building used in business. And living accommodation, for example, your staff quarters, the temple, the community hall. So all this is for the welfare of the workers. So let's look at the agriculture. The definition is that agriculture means any form of cultivation of crops, animal farming, aquaculture, inland fishing, and any other agricultural or pastoral pursuit. Right? It includes reforestation of timber. So it means that reforestation of timber means that, okay, you have an area of timber and then you have cut down all the timbers. Now you want to plant new timber. All right, so they call it as a reforestation. You want to make forest again. Yeah. So all these are what you mean by agriculture. So it doesn't mean that it's only crops, but it also include animal farming. It also include fishing activities. For example, you have ikan patin, alright, ikan, I don't know what kind of ikan lagi. I don't know, right? So aquaculture and inland fishing. Inland fishing tu macam you pergi tu lah, right? Tangkap ikan, bayar, you pay for it lah. Okay, crops include any form of vegetable produce. So that is what it's called crops. All right. So just now remember that they say that exclude replanting. What is a replanting? It means the replacement of the crop of any product on any area of land by taking such action is calculated to produce on the same area a crop of the same product. And that include reforestation of timber. So when you have replanting, right, means that you are replacing the same crop, right? The old crop with the same crop, old crop with new crop or the same product, something like that. Yeah. So that is called replanting. So when you have replanting, it's a non-qualifying expenditure. But the law says that, so when you have a replanting, the same crop on the same area, he will able to claim revenue deduction in arriving to adjusted income. So what's the difference between revenue deduction and claims of allowance? Right, that include land clearing cost, planting cost, cost of improvement work in relation to replanting. Right, in the case of vegetable, the replacement of cucumber with tomato plants remain within the ambit of vegetable. So therefore, it's a replanting and deduction is available. So my question is that, what's the difference between given you incur replanting at 10,000 and you incur new planting of 10,000? What is the different tax treatment for these two items? Replanting and new planting. Anyone?
I think for replanting we can deduct the whole 10,000.
Deduct mana? Where do you deduct?
Adjusted income.
Yeah, in arriving to your adjusted income, the 10,000 is given as a deduction. So you can claim the whole amount 10,000 immediately in the year that you incurred. But if it's an allowance, in the case of new planting, for example, you claim agriculture allowance, the same 10,000 that you incur for new planting, you have to apportion year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4, for example. Right? You're going to spread the cost over several periods. So my second question is that which one is better? You want to claim at a revenue deduction or you want to claim that as an allowance? Which one is better? You want? Hello? Ui.
Is it revenue expenditure?
Revenue expenditure is better because you claim the whole amount in 1 year. You don't have to wait 10,000, 10%, 20%, right? So you can claim everything immediately. Because at the end of the day, it's always you want the lowest statutory income. So which one will give lower statutory income is the revenue deduction. Because you claim 10,000. Otherwise, you claim 10,000, maybe 10% of that only. All right, as an allowance. So that's why, given an option, you always want to claim revenue deduction rather than allowance. So even though they say that the law say that okay, exclude replanting, is good actually for the taxpayer because replanting is given as a revenue deduction. Okay, so I hope that you understand the concept whereby how to decide which action is better for the company, because at the end of the day you want to pay the lowest tax liability, right? The one that gives you the lowest tax for that year of assessment is the best option, right? It's always like that. Okay, and then we say that common agriculture activity in Malaysia such as oil palm plantation may involve the planting of oil palm and also the processing of fresh fruit bunches into crude palm oil and palm kernels, right? The two activities are closely connected, being an integrated agricultural activity is also to be treated as one business source. So rather than having 3 business sources, you only have all these as one business source, namely agriculture business. So which one is better, to have one business source or you want to have 3 business sources? What is the difference having one business source and 3 business sources? One for planting, the other one for processing, the other one for selling. So which one? So because remember that at the end of the day, you want statutory income, give you the lowest, right? So by having one business source, it means that everything income under one title, and then whatever allowance available for all the 3 activities will be claimed as one. So that's good for the company because everything, even though if you have a lot of allowances, the total allowance can be deducted or can be carried forward if not used, right? And then we further improve your statutory income in the current year as well as in the future years. So again, given an option, you always want your business activities to be under one source. Yeah. Similarly, later when you do your tax planning, for example, you have business of producing mineral water, right? And the same company also business of ice cubes, right? Source is the same from the mineral water, but one you sell mineral water in bottles, the other one you sell ice cubes, right? Source is one. Do you claim that as one business source or you take it as 2 business sources? All right, for income tax purpose, we always want it to be one source. We have to show that these 2 businesses are interrelated. So it means that we can say that, okay, even though it's 2 business income, but it's actually from the same source, which is the mineral water. It's just that here is bottled, the other one is sold as ice cubes. All right, so it's very important for your tax planning when you do advanced tax, right? Because you have to think all these because you try to minimize your tax liability. All right, and then you have a building used in agriculture business. Agriculture allowance is available to encourage the growth of agriculture business, aims to relieve the burden of substantial capex. All right, in order for the building in agriculture business to be eligible as a building for agriculture purpose, all right, it has to have a zero value test. All right, it means that if the farm ceases to be worked, so it means that you have a building in the farm. So if the farm ceases to be worked, the building is no value, unless for the person who actually connecting with the working of another farm, right? So it means that the same farm now you can change your owner, so the building is still useful. So if it's still useful, then you cannot claim that as allowable agriculture allowance. All right, but if it's no value, then you can claim that as agriculture allowance. All right. Okay, example here we have plantation workers are housed in a building constructed on a piece of land owned by agro enterprise in Mersing town, 40 kilometers from its oil palm plantation. So here you have two, one building for the living accommodation, the other one you have the plantation. The issue here is the building here qualifying expenditure or not, right? Then you have to do the zero test, zero value test. So the building constructed is in Mersing town. It will have a considerable value when the plantation ceases to be worked. So assuming that, okay, this one is building in Mersing town, and here you have the plantation. If the plantation ceases operation, would this building still useful? Yes, it can still have value. It can still be rented out, right? Because it's in Mersing town, right? So because of that, this test, zero value test, is failed. So if you fail, then you cannot claim the building as a agricultural building expenditure, right? So it does not qualify. Okay, new planting, when a person had incurred qualifying expenditure on planting new crops on virgin land or replace new crop on the old crops of different product, purchase land from previous owner by planting the same crop is said to be carrying out new planting. Okay, so when say new planting, it has to be different crops, right? But if you have a new owner, for example, initially it was a vegetable, and then the land was sold to another owner, and that owner also plant vegetable. So even though it's the same crop, but it's different owner, it's still regarded as a new planting, right? He will be granted agricultural allowance. And what's the rate? Here, the rate for agriculture allowance is not similar. You don't have the initial allowance, you don't have annual allowance. You don't have initial, but this one could be annual allowance, yeah, because you are given every year. The clearing and preparation of land for the purpose of agriculture. So the first one, right, the clearing and preparation of land. So that is given, the rate is 50%. So it means that when you incur your capex, first year you claim 50%. So you have second year, you claim another 50%. When it comes to third year, zero already. You cannot claim anymore because 100% has been claimed. The planting but not the planting of crops on land cleared for planting, also 50%. Construction on a farm of roads or bridges is 50%. So A, B, and C is 50%. Construction on a farm building for welfare of person or living accommodation is 20%. And construction of any other building is 10%. So the rate is given 50, 50, 20, and 10. So if 20% means that you're going to claim for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. 5 years. But if it's 10% means that you can claim up to 10 years, provided that the asset is not disposed of. But if 50%, you can only claim year 1 and year 2. No initial allowance are available. Once agriculture allowance is claimed, the person is not entitled to other Schedule 3 allowance in respect of the same expenditure. It means that if you have a building which is used for living accommodation, and that living accommodation have zero value test, right? So in that case, then you are going to claim that building under agriculture allowance, right? So if that building is claimed under agriculture allowance, right, the rate is 20%, you cannot claim the building under industrial building allowance anymore, even though under IBA, living accommodation can be claimed, right? But because you already claim under agriculture allowance, the same building cannot be claimed under industrial building allowance. So you can only claim one allowance on each of your capex. All right, a claim of agriculture allowance. So when can you claim your agriculture allowance? No agricultural allowance shall be made to a person to an asset and a business of his where the asset is transferred or transmitted. So upon disposal of the asset, you cannot claim allowance. If, if it was not used or not in use for the purpose of business within 1 month, right? So it means that prior to disposal, you have to check, do you still use the asset for business purpose? If yes, then you can still claim your allowances. But if you do not use the asset within 1 month prior to disposal for business purpose, then you cannot claim allowance on that asset. In any case, if the end of the basis period, he was not the owner of the asset, all right? So in order for you to claim, you must be the owner and use the asset at the end of the basis period. In the year of disposal, if the qualifying agricultural expenditure was in use within 1 month, okay, dah done, right? The transferee will claim the remaining part irrespective of his basis. Before that, I kena baca balik. In the year of disposal, the qualifying agricultural expenditure was in use within 1 month, then the claim of agricultural allowance is up to the date of transfer or sale allocated on time basis. So, assuming that I have a disposal, previously under capital allowance, plant and machinery or industrial building allowance, in the year of disposal, you cannot claim allowance, right? You cannot claim allowance in the year of disposal. But for the purpose of agriculture allowance, if you still use the asset within 1 month from the date of disposal, you can stay claim. But you have to do time apportion, right? So for example, if you use it for 6 months only, then you have to apportion 6/12 of the allowance. Yeah, the transferee. So in this case, you have two, transferor and transferee. Transferor is the disposal. Transferee is the purchaser. All right. Claim the remaining part irrespective of his basis period and purchase consideration. So what is available to the transferee for the same year of assessment is the balance of the allowance available. No agricultural allowance will be given during the year of disposal if not used within 1 month. Okay, please read the example first. All right, I'll come back after this. Oh, I tak pasang video lah. Okay, example 29.2. Tumbuh cepat, a rubber plantation company in Pahang incurred the following capex for year end 31st October 2020. So this is AYA 2020. Year end 31st October, you have land clearing 100, seedlings and fertilizing 240. Then you have construction of labor quarters and office building. So the first land clearing and seedlings fall under planting. So the total cost qualifying is 340. Then you have labor quarters of 80, the rate is 20%. How do you know it's 20%? You have to look back, table ni, right? This table tells you what is the rate of the expenditure. Yeah, so you have to...
We're not seeing the textbook, we're seeing you.
Oh, I am presenting. Hold on, yeah, I stop presenting. Thank you. Okay, can you see now?
Yes, madam.
Okay. So the rate is given, yeah. So here you have 20%, and then you also have office building, which is 10%. So assuming that Tumbuh Cepat incurred this expenditure for the whole year, so you are going to claim 50% on the planting, 20% on labor quarters, and 10% on the office building. So the cost, the agriculture allowance available is 170, which is 340 times by 50%. Labor quarters is 16 and office building is 6. Okay, jawapan salah. Right. Okay, all right. So, okay, is that clear? How to do this? Because you only use the rate and then identify the qualifying expenditure and then apply the rate, then you have the agriculture allowance here. Okay, next, disposal of asset. So when you dispose of asset, they say that the transferor, right, can still claim allowance based on the time apportionment, provided that you use still the asset within 1 month before the transfer. All right, so you are going to have the number of days that before the transfer over 365 times by the agriculture allowance, right? And the transferee, all right, the price paid for the agriculture expenditure is ignored because you're going to claim what is remaining due to the transfer, right? So whatever balance, you are going to claim that. Where the asset is a farm used by the recipient for the purpose of business, buildings used for the recipient, so the also use that for a business purpose. Recipient shall be entitled for the YA in the basis period for which the transfer or transmission took place to the other part of that allowance. The amount of the agriculture allowance for the subsequent YA will be available to the transferee is computed on the basis the agriculture allowance. All right, so okay, panjang. Okay, baca ni example 29.3. Using example 29.2, all right, the same tumbuh cepat just now, sold its entire asset to Asia Pacific Rubber Plantation Sdn Bhd on 1st March 2020. Yeah, 1st March 2020, the accounting year end for APRP is 31st of December. So now you have tumbuh cepat year end is 31st of August. You have APRP year end is 31st of December. Okay. So what happened is that tumbuh cepat sold the asset on 1st March. So means that for 2020 year end 31st October 2020, tumbuh cepat only claim for 6 months. Why 6 months? Because you have a period, all right, let's look at tumbuh cepat, right? You start from 1st September 2019 and you sold on 1st of March. So means that your end of period, basis period for the asset is 28th of February 2020. And September, October, November, December, January, February, that is 6 months. So means that dispose of the asset and prior to the disposal, asset is used in business. So tumbuh cepat can claim allowance for a 6 months period. Right? So tumbuh cepat for YA year end 2020 or for example YA 2020, you can only claim instead of the whole amount, you can only claim for 6 months. So 6 months is 340. What is this? This is an example of 340 times by 50% times by 6 over 12.
It's 11 o'clock.
Right? So that's how you do it. Okay, so that's the computation, how you compute your 85. So means that because tumbuh cepat only use the asset for 6 months, all right, so you can only claim allowance for 6 months, so half of that lah, 85. Similarly, for labor quarters is also half of that, 50% of that, and office building initially it was 6, but because 6 months you can only claim 3. Right, for Asia Pacific, all right, year end is 31st of December. So even though Asia Pacific purchased asset on 1st of March, so March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, there are 10 months, right? So you do not actually claim that for 10 months, but you only claim whatever left for YA 2020. So because remember for 2020, the rate, the available allowance is 170. So means that for YA 2020, tumbuh cepat claim 85, Asia Pacific will also claim the balance 85. It's not based on 10 months period, it's based on the balance of amount of agriculture allowance available. Right? So 85 so means that claim half by agriculture tumbuh cepat and then APRP will claim the balance 50%. Right? So that is example 29.3. Do you get that? 29.3, right? Pasir Tumbuh disposed on 1st of March. Alright, for YA 2020, year end is 31st March, but you are going to claim for 6 months only. So from 340 times by 50 times by 6 months. So you get 885, 8 and 3. But for ARP, for year end 31st December 2020, you're going to claim agriculture the balance for 2020, which is only 85, 8 and 3. Alright, question for this, example 29.3, before we go into 29.4. You understand? Yes or no?
Yes, madam.
Yes, madam.
Okay, yeah. All right. So let's go into 29.4. Right? That's why you understand 29.3 before we go into 29.4. Using example 29.3, if APRP year end is 28th of February. In this example, APRP is 31st of December. But in this example, year end is 28th of February. The 28th of February, and the disposal date remain to be on 1st of March 2020. Then the first year IRP to claim agriculture is YA 2021. So my question is, why can't APRP claim in YA 2020? Can APRP claim YA 2020? Filza Rainan.
Yes, madam.
Can APRP claim for YA 2020?
Cannot because the year end is. No.
Are you still here?
Yes, I'm still here.
Can you claim YA 2020? Okay, what is the year end of APRP?
The year end is 28 February.
Okay, so what would be the basis period for YA 2020?
The basis period for YA 2020 is end at 28 February. So I think they cannot claim the in YA 2020 because the year end has ended.
When did you acquire the asset?
Acquire the asset and disposal date to remain. Wait.
When did you acquire the asset, APRP? Oh, come on, Filza, is there?
First March 2020.
Okay, so your year end is 28th of February. You acquired 1st March 2020. So that date, 1st March 2020, fall into which YA?
Falls to YA 2020. Falls which YA 2020.
Again. So YA 2020, when is the year end?
The year end is 28 February.
2020. So kalau 1st March 2020, when is the year end?
Oh, wait.
Ni Abdul Hafiz.
Madam.
Yes. 1st March 2020, which YA?
YA 2021.
Why?
YA 2021.
Okay, what's the basis period for YA 2021?
1st March to 2020 until 28 February 2021.
Very good. So your YA 2021 start from 1st March 2020 to 28th of February 2021. So that's why in this example, APRP cannot claim for YA 2020 because YA 2020 ends on 28th of February 2020. So as at that date, you do not own the asset yet. If you do not own the asset, how could you claim? How could you claim the allowance? Right? So you can only claim the allowance in YA 2021. So what happened in this example, tumbuh cepat remains claim the allowance for 6 months. So dia akan claim same 85, 8 and 3. Yeah, for YA 2020, and that's how much you claim lah. But for APRP, they cannot claim in YA 2020. They only claim in 2021 because year end is 28th of February. Yeah, but in YA 2021, what would be the allowance available for APRP? What would be the allowance? For APRP. This one is wrong. This one is wrong. This one is wrong. So my question is, what would be the allowance available for APRP for YA 2021? Arif Zinidin. How do I call you? Arif. Is Arif here?
Yes.
Now, what would be the allowance available for APRP and the planting for YA 2021? What's the rate? What's the QE?
With 50%.
50% of 340.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to claim. So that's why the answer is wrong. Yeah. 340 times by 50%. And for living quarters, what was the rate just now? Okay. What was the rate? The QE is, tak ingat dah. Mana ah? Mana QE? 80 and 60. So you're going to claim 80,000. So what will be the rate? The rate for APRP here is 80 times by 0.2, which is 60 lah. Is it? Kan? 60 kan? And this one is, berapa tadi ya? Times 0.1. Was it 60? About 10% lah. Right? This one is 20%. Am I right? Okay. So APRP will claim 340 times 50% for 2021. All right, and it comes to 2022, they only left with the balance 85. Yeah, because remember you have total 340. So first year, tumbuh cepat claim 85. Second year APRP 140. So means that you have another 85 in the third year. Labor quarters, you still claim 20%, 20%, 20%. But remember, final year you only have the balance of 10%. Office building, similarly 10%, 10%, 10%. The final year you're going to claim the balance of 5%. Because why? Because tumbuh cepat already have claimed part of the allowances, right? So you have to take into account that. All right, now we already have finished this topic. All right. In the next class, I will go into your agriculture charge. So I will stop here. All right, and we continue in the next class, even though we still have 10 minutes. So I open for question. If you have any question with regard to this topic. Anyone?
Then,
Yeah.
if given that the owner before did not claim the allowance, then
We can claim everything lah.
if the owner didn't use for 1 month prior, like
Yeah. Yeah. So the owner cannot claim anything, but then when transfer, you claim everything lah. Whatever the allowance available, claimed by the transferee.
okay, madam.
Any more question? Yes.
Can you explain the 7.0A?
7.0. Hold on, yeah. Is this one?
Yeah.
B.
A.
In any other case, if at the end of the basis period for that year, he was not the owner. So that's why for you to claim allowance, we must be the owner. Right? So the law says that is all. This one yang penting ni. The term here is all. Kenapa tak merah? Okay. Alright, so in order for you to claim allowance, you must use the asset or you are the owner. Right? Of course, the sentence is that no agricultural allowance shall be made to a person if you are transferred or it was not used for the purpose of business 1 month before, or you are not the owner. So in this case, alright, when you transfer at the end of the basis period, of course you are not the owner for the case of tumbuh cepat. Alright, you transfer on 1st of March 2020 means that end of basis period is 31st of August. Right? So if the law says that, right, you are not the owner, then you cannot claim. But here why you claim? Because you use the asset you use the asset in the business within 1 month prior to disposal. The word or is very important here. Alright, you have to fulfill one of the conditions. Either use it for your business prior to disposal or you own the asset. Right? So in either way, you can claim your allowances. Is that clear?
Actually, I'm not clear about the A, not B.
About?
A.
Which one?
A.
A.
Environment.
Alright. Okay, the law says that no agriculture allowance shall be made to a person in relation to an asset of his where asset is transferred or transmitted in the basis period for that year if it was not used in the purpose of business. So it says that in this A, you cannot claim allowance if you transfer the asset. Remember what do you mean by transfer? Dispose, right? Transfer is dispose. If you transfer the asset at the end of the year and prior to the disposal, asset was not used for business within 1 month. So if you do not use the asset within 1 month, prior to the transfer, you cannot claim allowance. Which part yang you tak understand?
Must use the asset within 1 month.
So maknanya katalah, okay, you dispose on 1st of March, and then you must make sure that prior to disposal 1st of March, 1 month maknanya February lah. Prior to that. Okay? So February, you must make sure that you use the asset for business. If you do not use the asset for business, you cannot claim allowance on the asset.
Okay, madam.
Okay, let's get someone else to explain. Ashbil Kamal. Where is Ashbil Kamal?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Can you please explain A to siapa ask tadi? Who asked the question just now?
Abdul.
Can you explain that part A to Abdul?
No, madam.
Huh?
I can't explain.
Why can't you explain? What you understand from A? Macam mana ni? Nur Akilah.
Yes, madam.
Ha. Can you use the plain words to explain to Abdul? And siapa ke tadi? Ashbil.
For the A, 7A, if the asset is transferred in that year, and it is not used within 1 month, but so the owner cannot claim the allowance.
Can or cannot?
The owner can, but if that person, the
Okay. In
owner,
order for you to claim agriculture allowance, asset must be used in business within 1 month.
yes.
What do you mean by asset used in business within 1 month?
There is, the plantation is still there.
Okay? What?
There is still plantation activity there.
The activity, for example, you're talking about, for example, let's say you're talking about the planting, the cost, all right? So you incurred qualifying expenditure on planting. All right, so you make sure that in order for you to claim allowance, the planting is still there within 1 month lah. You should be able to produce something lagi lah. It's not that you have stopped business for 1 month, then only you dispose. Cannot lah. You must continue to have the business on prior to the disposal. Then only you can claim allowance. All right? Okay. So you may get your other friends to explain, because I tried to explain that. I do not know whether I can do that in a simpler way. That's my limit. So what else? Anything else? Any other question?
Madam, I have question. From what you're saying, that the asset is not used because there is used when there is an activity. What if that time the plantation is not in musim, so that the owner not using the asset for the purpose of the activities of the plantation, but because of the musim?
But it's still there, right? So again, if you see that it's not in the season, then the land is not totally used, then cannot lah.
Okay.
Right? Then you cannot claim allowance lah. So in order for you to decide when to dispose, all right, you have to make sure that, right, prior to the disposal, the activities are on. So that goes to your tax planning in terms of timing for you to dispose of your asset.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. If there is nothing, then